fence expert. Who's that guy in that orange shirt? Who must be the fence expert? It's almost time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time for Joe to drop his knowledge, it's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. So here we go, we're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, Fence fam? So good to have you guys back. I tell you what, I was just talking with Braden as we were getting ready to go live here. That song, shout out to Matt. Matt, if you're watching, great intro song. Every time we're listening to it, it gets us going. I like it a lot. Guys, so good to see you guys. We were off last week. I was over in Tulsa for the Chili Bowl Nationals shootout. Also met with Nathan with Protecting Your Perimeter podcast. Sat down in an episode with him for that. So, check out the podcast. Check out Nathan's podcast here next week or so. I'm not sure when it's coming out. So you'll have to just download it What do? Subscribe to the podcast. That's what they tell you to do. Subscribe to the podcast and I'll be on there shortly. Guys, how are you? Let me know you're here by saying hi, checking in the comment section. We are coming to you live from the Expert Professional Wood Care Studios. Caleb, Ashley, and the team, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you guys are looking into fence staining, or if you're already fence staining but haven't tried the product, you really should. They're a sponsor because I've used them for years. Really like the product, and I think you will too. If you guys are listening to us on the podcast, thank you. I appreciate it. You're listening to a recorded version of a live Q&A. Guys, I'm going to apologize right up front. I'm battling a head cold of sorts, and not going well. A little foggy brain, a little stuffed up around the facial region, but we're going to power through it. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you. Other podcasters I listen to ask their people to leave them a 5-star review. So if you do that, then thank you. I appreciate it. We should probably do the Danny Cannon thing where I read like a 5-star review to encourage people to leave more 5-star reviews. Anyway, if you guys read the description, you know who today's guest is. We've got the one, the only, Kenny. How are you?
Good, Joe. How are you doing?
Good. Now I used to call you the mad scientist of fence cleaning, but we don't do that anymore. We don't do that. You were just the fence staining extraordinaire. That's a good one.
I don't have the hair that I can just. I mean, I could do the beard all crazed out, but
Well, when I said mad scientist, I meant it in all the best ways. Like it's when I'm watching your content. So those of you that don't know, Kenny, for the one or two people out there that don't know who you are, let's do a brief introduction. Who's Kenny Dugan?
Stain Man is what a lot of people call me. I'm a fence stainer in Dallas, Texas. I've been doing it for quite a while now, since 2004. I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of me. I don't have any fancy story. I didn't travel across America to stain fences in Dallas. But yeah, it's just, that's me.
Well, you provide a ton of content around the fence cleaning space, right? I mean, that's a lot of the content I see you producing.
It's yeah. I try to give people what I've experienced, and I don't want to say it's. I mean, it's kind of my opinion on things. It's
Sure,
not.
sure.
I don't want to be claimed as the expert on or the know-it-all on everything, but
Sure.
yeah, it's kind of what I've been through. My story, I guess.
Well, I tell you, so you're great at explaining things, and I'll give you an example. So I reached out to you. It's been a couple years ago now. So we had built a fence, and a buddy of mine does lawn care, like chemical application, that sort of thing. Well, he was spraying fertilizer or something on the fence or on the yard, and got some on the fence, and it really discolored the fence. I mean, it looked like rust stains running down the fence. So he asked me, so I've tried cleaning this thing. I've tried power washing it gently, and it won't come off. And I was like, I know just the guy. Give me a minute. I'll reach out. And and you said, Joe, you know what to use. I was like, well, not yet. I don't. That's why I'm calling you. You're like, yeah, no, you already know though. Like, what do you use on a fence to get rid of bleeds from nail runs? Like, oh, you use oxalic acid. See? You already knew the answer. Oh, you're right. And sure enough, went out there and sprayed a little bit on it, and it came right off. Couldn't even see it. Rinsed it off. Everyone was happy all the way around. So
Good.
You're great at explaining things in a way that people understand.
I think I remember that conversation. I think it was at the Staining University. We were at supper.
Yeah,
But,
that's right.
But yeah, I'm not the most politically correct guy, and so I try to make it, when I explain something, I explain it in my terms. I don't want to try to go over somebody's head and say,
Yeah.
me, I know everything. So,
No, yeah, you make it easily digestible. I mean, I think anyone can watch your content and really get a ton out of it. Let's do this. Let's say hi to a few folks, guys, as you're watching and listening. If you have questions about cleaning fences, drop them in the comments below. I want to talk to Kenny for a little bit about fence cleaning, like where people can start getting into it, because it seems like something that's really, it's hard to get into. I mean, because there is a lot of chemical knowledge that goes into it, but I'd like to talk about some easy ways to get into it. Also, Kenny's got a big announcement here in just a little bit. We're gonna tease it now, talk about it later, because that's what the real shows do. So we're gonna give that a shot. All right, let's go back. Let's jump up here. So first and foremost, Roger Bentoncourt. Roger's here. Hello, Roger. Hey there, Joe, Kenny, and the rest of the fence fam.
morning, Roger.
Good morning, Roger. Jason with Tail End Fence. How are you, sir? What's up, fence fam? Joe, how have you been? I have been well. Still loving your show. Jason, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Good seeing friendly, familiar names in the chat. Lisa with Greenwood Fence here. Hello, Lisa. Glad to have you. Now, you know these guys, Kenny. My Fence Life says, what? Yeah. Kenny Dugan, the Stain Man. That's right. Oh,
Couple
Danny
crazy guys
Cannon. If you guys, if you guys are into fencing content, that's probably why you're here. You should check out the My Fence Life show. They hold it on Wednesdays, I believe. Is that right? Wednesdays. It is Wednesdays on Facebook. I just know because I get the pop-up notification on my phone. I'm like, oh, it's Danny Cannon Day. I guess I should say it's My Fence Life Day. Mark says, what's up, Joe? Good morning. Mark, good morning to you. Good morning to Kenny as well. Say good morning to Kenny when you say good morning to me. Jeremy, now Jeremy says, hey guys, appreciate y'all both. Howdy, Fence fam. Good morning, Jeremy. Now I did get your email and I will be returning it. I don't want you to think I didn't see it. I have seen it. Just haven't had a chance to like sift through them. I scanned it and I do have a response for you. I'm not Nick. There you go. Okay. I was getting ready to really struggle with the name Nick. Thank you. Nick here from China. Hello, Nick.
What time is it in China?
Well, it's tomorrow, isn't it? Like,
It's 12 a.m.
12 a.m. It's technically tomorrow. Ideal Fence. What's up, James? James with Ideal Fence out of NCI. Kenny, I look forward to learning today. Thanks for sharing. There you go. We know James. He's been to a few of the industry events. Divine Fence Company. Someone else that's been attending university. Hello, Kenny, Joe, and Fence fam. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. You as well. Cool. Always got to use expert stainless steel. Kenny, a lot of great knowledge. I agree. I use their stain a lot. So that's the thing is we talk about this a lot, but sometimes we've got new people that come in and I always like to explain like the sponsorship process. Well, we also have a new sponsor coming on here in a little bit, and we'll talk about that on another day. But the big thing, one of my core tenets is that it has to be a product that I believe in or an app or something like that, because if not, then it's simply a transaction and that's not valuable to anybody really. So no, I found Caleb. Well, I tell you, I found Caleb through the Staining University Facebook page, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit more about that in a little bit. We're just putting out tons of free content on staining fences and how it's really an approachable, trade. It's an easy upsell for a fence company. So I got involved with it and I used their product for quite a while before we started talking about bringing them on as a sponsor. It's a product I like. I think the biggest props I can give them is we put it up at our house. So if it can pass Mama Bear standards, then it's good stuff. David Ruse, join us from LinkedIn. What's Dawood? Sorry. Dawood with DK Security Solutions. Appreciate your time and education on a Saturday morning. You're very welcome. Thank you for tuning in on LinkedIn. Steve says, hello, Joe, or hi, Joe and Kenny. Steve here from, Deck Clean in the UK. Good afternoon to you. We are finally getting the expert products over here February 15th. That's great news. I'm really glad to hear that.
Steve was on that the online university. Caleb
Okay.
had.
Okay. Yeah. The virtual university.
Yep.
That was awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. Nick says it's midnight here in China now. What a crazy world we live in. Nick, I appreciate you joining. Any familiar with Jan Fence Academy Fence? Not offhand, but we can certainly look them up. Look who's with us. Station Experts Professional Wood Care says, morning, guys. Morning, team. Appreciate you joining us. We were just singing your guys' praises here a minute ago. Ed Ronan says, will we ever build a fence on our border? You know what? Not a single person has put either me or Kenny in charge of that particular project. So the answer is, I don't know.
I won't build it, but I'll stain it.
Yeah, right. Kenny, let's start this off by talking about fence cleaning, because like I said, I think people view it as, something that's hard to get into, and that it's a really imposing subject matter of really properly cleaning a fence. And I think people need to take care with it, obviously, because you could do some damage. But I think it's more approachable than some people think. What do you think?
It is. When I first got into it, I got started with just a pressure washer, and that's all I used was I went out and bought a pressure washer, started washing fences. and that's I started doing a lot of damage to the fences. But I got introduced to first thing I got introduced to was bleach, like
Yep.
everybody else. And I was one of those guys that I went and bought the 10%, 12.5%, and I sprayed it directly onto the fence and walked away.
You thought
And
this is like magic.
yeah, I was like, this is easy. Um, but as you start doing more research, you find there's more chemicals out there, and it's not rocket science. It's I mean, there are some chemicals that work better than other chemicals. Um, and you have those people who are you don't want to use bleach, never use bleach on wood, and it's not necessarily the case. There are instances where bleach is fine, and people get scared of, oh, I can't use the bleach on wood. But then you have the opposite side of, it's yeah, throw the bleach on, rock and roll with it,
Yeah.
and you just have to be. You don't want to misuse your chemicals.
Yeah.
So um,
I think the big takeaway there, Kenny, and something I've kind of learned is there's different tools for different jobs,
yep,
right? Like can you use a hammer to drive a screw? If you hit it hard enough, you probably can.
yep,
But if you use a screwdriver, you'd probably perform that task a little bit better.
yeah.
So I view bleach as maybe a tool in the arsenal. Like it probably has a place in certain situations. But if you were so Kenny, say I'm just getting into fence cleaning, and I reach out and say, Kenny, where do I get started? How do I get started? What would your first piece of advice be?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I mean, it's, and I've had a few people who is here that are watching your podcast are same question. Where do I
Yeah,
get started? How I get it started? And a lot of it comes down to is what do you want your results to be? What's our end goal on this? If we have a fence that's been stained, that's not in bad shape, bleach is perfectly fine. You just don't want to be throwing it at it 100% bleach at it.
yeah,
Uh, but as far as equipment, you can get a pump up sprayer and a garden hose, and and the work can be done. You got to know your limitations on what you can do.
sure,
If I go out there and the first job I come across is a log cabin that's got some film forming stain on, and all I got is a pump up sprayer and a garden hose, I'm probably turn that down or find somebody else that can handle it.
sure,
But if it's a fence that might be 6 months old, or a builder has come to me, or even a gray one, you can tackle it. It's you just got to know your limitations on what you can do until you build up to that point. So
sure, sure. What and this answer probably varies depending on who you ask, but what would be a safe dilution to start at? With
on
like with a bleach or sodium hypochlorite bleach.
so it kind of depends on where you're starting at to begin with.
Okay.
Is if you've got 10% bleach, if you cut it in half, now you got 5% bleach, and we might still be a little bit too strong, so you want to
Yeah.
cut that in half again. But if you're going to the grocery store and buying 6% bleach or 3% bleach, I max out at 3%. That's
Yeah.
that's all the tougher I'll put on wood. Anything more than that, then I'm going to change my chemicals. But
Sure.
I only use bleach on a maintenance program, or a maintenance wash. So
Yeah.
if I have a fence that might be 3-4 years old, I'm going to spray a light bleach solution on that, and that's just to kill organics.
Sure.
A lot of people think that bleach cleans the fence, and if you Google what does bleach do, or is bleach a cleaner,
Yeah.
it's not. Bleach by itself is not a cleaner, and a lot of people are throwing bleach up against the fence thinking they're cleaning the fence, and they're not. It's You're killing organics, and that's kind of the purpose of this,
Sure.
of
Sure.
using bleach.
So, would it be safer to start with something like like an eco cleaner, like a sodium percarbonate type product?
So yeah, sodium percarbonate is a great product to use when you're getting going, and it helps you get started learning about the chemicals that are involved in the process. So yeah, sodium percarbonate is a great cleaner. It's a mild cleaner. It's going to kill organics. It takes a little bit longer to work.
Yeah.
And everybody, I'm sure you've seen these posts. I can get in and I can make $700 an hour.
Yeah.
Of course you can, but when you're brand new and you're learning this stuff, you really don't want to be hightailing through these jobs. So,
No, because you could do a lot of damage,
oh yeah,
unintended damage.
yep,
So there's a fair amount of conversation going on right now about exterior paints and how they react with bleach type cleaners or
yep,
bleach type. Yeah, cleaners is not the right word, but bleach type products.
yep,
So if we're cleaning this fence and it's up against a house and we get a little bit on it, but we wash it off. But now we figure out that they've got one of these pigments involved in the stain that discolors at the slightest use of bleach or sodium hypochlorite. Well, now we're in a pickle because
yep,
now we're talking about you also can't touch up one part, one area of the house. You can't just
nope,
touch this area up because now that new paint's not going to match the rest of the house. So now we're
yep,
talking about a major painting project, and that $700 an hour you thought you were making vanishes
yep.
plus some.
Yep, I had a house that it had the organic based pigments in it, and the fence did as well. And this lady, she was an interior decorator, and she pushed this product, um, and I brought her out, and I said, okay, here's watch what happens. We're just so it was a painted fence. We're just going to kill organics. We're going to come back over, and we're going to stain solid stain over the top of it. And I said, watch what happens when I put bleach on here. And it went from, so it was kind of a maroon colored fence, and
Hmm.
it instantly went pink. And she
Yeah.
was like, whoa, what happened here? I was like, yeah, that's, if I get this on your house, it's going to happen too. So you just kind of got to be careful with that stuff. And she was amazed she was like, I didn't know that product would do that. And I was like, now you know.
A lot, and it's a lot more now than it has been in years past.
Yep.
There's been some formula change. There's a whole discussion going on about this right now,
Yep.
but that's why I say something safer to start with would be like a sodium percarbonate. To your point, it takes a little bit longer. It's not as harsh of a cleaner. It takes a little bit longer, but it also doesn't have these consequences either, right? So
Correct.
and it's we're not so when we're working with sodium hypochlorite with bleach, we're also worried about all the landscape around it. So if we're familiar with stain, we're familiar with overspray, right? Well,
Yep.
cleaners have the same problem, right?
Yep.
And it's not a problem if you manage it correctly, but you can still get this solution on other things. Rose bushes are incredibly fragile. There's trees out there that are very fragile.
Yep.
Well, and just the turf itself that's under the grass that's under the fence. So starting off with something that's a little bit lighter may take a little bit longer, but something that's lighter might be a safer choice getting started.
Yes, yes. It's gonna slow you down a little bit and force you to learn the process.
Sure, sure.
And I talk to people, about what spray rigs to use when they're staining. I Okay, start with this smaller spray rig, and it's going to force you to work on detail. It's going
Yeah,
to force you to work on getting things and then you can start stepping up. You don't have to jump in with a $30,000 rig right off the bat.
right,
But
right. Well, and the thing was, so one of the benefits of sodium percarbonate, and we'll go on from here, but so we've got a competitor here in our area where they talk about the cleaning bubbles, the cleaning suds, and you can see it cleaning. We're doing our job when you see the bubbles. Like, well, yeah, but that's what they do. That's what it does anyway. But
yeah,
that is one of the byproducts of using sodium percarbonate is that you do get kind of those foaming bubbles when it comes in contact with organics.
yep, yep. I had a guy talk to me at one of the universities. He was wanting to have a chemical that you could spray on the fence that when the homeowner looked out, it was foaming up and bubbling, and so it made it look like he was cleaning. I was like, well, yeah, here you go. I
Yeah.
think we've talked about this.
Yep. 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 Yeah. There is a fair amount of show involved with it.
Yep,
It does look nice, and the customer can see it and know that they can see a reaction taking place.
yep.
So they do know that you're not just spraying water on the fence and
Well,
selling it
and
snake oil, I suppose.
it goes a long way. So there's companies who don't use pressure washers. We don't want to use pressure washers against the fence. What they don't understand is you can adjust the pressure that you're
Yeah.
putting against the fence.
Yeah.
And a lot of homeowners if they don't hear the sound of an engine running, it's not getting cleaned.
Yeah.
And so they
Right.
like that noise. And so I use a pressure washer. It's just a little bit quicker for me, but I'm not running 3,500 PSI against a fence. So
Right.
it's that perception to the client. And even to take it a step further, I use a surfactant in my cleaner that smells like pine. And
Yeah.
so when you spray it on and it cleans it off, you come outside, it smells like a brand new fence.
Yeah.
You're
Which
like,
they're used
ooh,
to smelling inside the house
yeah.
and associate it with a really clean floor, that sort of thing.
Yep, yep, and
That's
so
smart.
so you're hitting them 3 different levels of, I guess, subconsciously of this thing is getting super clean, so
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about the power washer too is um, when you kick it on, it's also everyone in the neighborhood knows what's going on too.
yep,
So we'll get people walk up and say, "Hey, while you're doing this, I heard you guys cleaning some stuff. Can you come down and clean my stuff?"
yep,
You bet. It's kind of like a was the ice cream truck, but for cleaning services. You just
hit
kick on the power washer, and people
yep.
know what's going on.
The next
Yeah.
door neighbor steps out, "What's going on over here?"
Uh huh.
Yep,
We'll
uh,
use it to rinse. We'll use it with like a really wide soap nozzle type, type tip.
yep,
It's not a ton of pressure, but so for us, we're using volume, not
yep,
pressure. We're just throwing a bunch of water at the fence just to try to make it a little bit easier.
yep.
But it is, people like to hear that. So Siri didn't get that. But so sodium percarbonate would probably be a good first place to start. A nice way to get started. It takes a little bit longer, but not as risky. What would the next step be?
I would probably move into, sodium metasilicate, start getting into it a little bit. It's a mild stripper. It'll take pigment off or, oil-based, pigment off. Um it's used in pretty much every product that you're using right now. If you do laundry, wash dishes, sodium metasilicate is in that product. It's used in degreasers and stuff like that. So it's not, if you make a stout mix, it could be dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as something like, what we'll get into a little later on is,
Yeah.
in hydroxides. So, but yeah, metasilicate would be and that's my go-to. That's what I use 90% of the time is metasilicate.
So when do you know when you walk up and you look at a fence? When do you know? All right. So well, you said Metasilicate's kind of your entry level though. Where would someone that's just getting into it know? Hey, we should probably step up from a percarbonate to a metasilicate.
I mean, that should probably be one of your within the first couple weeks of. I mean, the only time I use percarbonate is when I'm working around plants, like we mentioned before.
Yeah.
If I got a garden or something around that I don't want to damage, that's when I'm using percarbonate. When I get into metasilicate is when I have a wide open yard. I just got maybe grass around, or concrete or whatever. I don't have any um, issues with runoff. I'm not working over a lake or a dock or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's when I would start seriously looking into using metasilicate. And metasilicate is it's one of those things that you don't need heat or hot water to mix it. With percarbonate, you don't necessarily need it, but it makes it a lot easier
It
to
helps.
dissolve. Yeah, yeah. So
Very good. Let's talk about application for a second. So we talked about pump up sprayer is a good way to get into applying it. What other application methods are out there, Kenny?
so your pump up sprayer is kind of your intro to it. It's you can go to Home Depot and get one or Lowe's or
Mhm.
wherever and get one for uh 10-15 bucks. Then you can get into what I call a 12-volt system. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's like your roof pumps, but it's similar to your roof pumps.
Sure.
Um, that would kind of be your next step up. You can mix. So with like a pump up sprayer, you're mixing 1 gallon, 2 gallon at a time.
Yep.
With the 12 volt, you could mix however big of a container you got. If you
Sure.
got a 30-gallon tank, you can mix that. You don't want to because you'll
Sure.
waste a lot of it, but um, that would be your next step up. And then from there, you can get into your downstreaming, X jetting, and stuff like that. I downstream
Yep.
uh, because I mean, I've been doing it long enough, and I've kind of got the ratios figured out, and it just makes it so I can do about 15 to 1800 square feet per hour, which is about what it took me to do when I was using bleach. So, or doing a direct application of bleach.
Sure, sure. So you're kind of getting back up into that higher speed, but you also know exactly what you're doing too. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to try to do these very quickly.
Yeah, 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 and that's and we'll get to that later on too of what we kind of teach in at Stanion University.
Yeah,
We teach you these methods or show you these methods, and if you want to jump on the gun, hey, jump on it, learn it.
sure.
But yeah, don't. I would start off with probably the with the pump up sprayer
Yeah,
because it's cheaper. If you break a pump up sprayer, you're out 10, $15.
yeah.
12-volt systems are going to run you $500, $600. And
Well,
so,
and with the pump up sprayer, you can replace it pretty quickly.
yeah,
You know,
yep,
if it clogs or if it for whatever reason it doesn't work, it's simple as finding another big box store in the area, picking one up, and you can get moving again.
yep,
Whereas with some of the 12-volt systems, a lot of the parts you could find at a big box store, but it would just take a little bit more time.
yeah, yeah. Now
So
they
we,
do have you can get pump up systems that are battery operated, and I show
yeah,
some of those at the Stanion universities, and it's basically just a where you have the pump up handle, you screw this thing on, hit a button, and it pressurizes it,
yeah.
and
So
so
kind of a
it's
nice half step.
yep, it's a half step. It's a what $100 for one of those.
Sure.
So you're kind of yeah, you're going from 15 to 100 to 3, 400, $500. So
Got it. So we've gone from percarbonate to metasilicate. Where's our next step? Now, this next step doesn't happen quickly, but where would we go if we really have a handle on metasilicate? We're not damaging plants. We're not damaging anything. Where's the next step?
so you're gonna from there you're gonna get into your hydroxides. It's a more aggressive stripper. Hydroxide is whether it's sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide. Um, they're basically it's a lye. So I'm sure your grandma when she used to make lye soap. It's kind of a similar. Now these are all with oil-based stains. I should
Sure,
probably
sure.
mention that when we get into water-based stains, you can start making your own strippers for that. But but yeah, hydroxides is so let's say we got a fence that the homeowner we applied a stain on there and the homeowner just really wasn't happy with the color and we got to get it off. And so that's where we start using hydroxide. Um, I prefer potassium hydroxide over sodium hydroxide,
Okay.
but they both work. You just have to be extremely careful with that, and this is one of those instances where you have to hazmat suit up. You got
Yeah.
to protect everything.
Well, let's kind of rewind because I think that's a good thing to talk about is personal protective equipment, PPE.
Yep.
What should be in everyone's truck as far as PPE getting started to graduating to these other chemicals?
So rubber gloves, and no matter what chemical you're using, you want to use your rubber gloves. It's and I pick up a box. I want to say it's 100 of them. I think they're about $15, and they stay on the truck at all times. And no matter what I'm when I'm staining, when I'm mixing chemicals, no matter what I'm doing, I'm wearing those rubber gloves. In the summer, they get really hot.
Yeah.
You gotta deal with it. It's either that or a chemical burn.
Right.
And I do that with any chemical. So whether it's percarbonate, metasilicate, whatever it is, Dawn soap, and it
Yeah.
keeps your hands cleaner. Um, you eye protection.
Yep.
And I mean, it could be as simple as a pair of sunglasses, just so
Sure.
you ideally you want the kind that kind of wrap around so
Yep.
you have less of a chance for splatter to get up in your eye. But eye protection is key. When you start getting to the more aggressive chemicals, you want to have a mask, a face
Yep.
mask. And you should probably do it with any chemical, whether it's percarbonate or whatnot, just because of the dust and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Well,
uh,
you just don't want to inhale really any of those chemicals. Yeah.
yep, yep. If you inhale enough of anything, it's not good for you. So
Sure. Sure.
Um, but and then long sleeves or a Tyvek suit or something that's going to help keep it off your skin. And
Sure.
then always the first thing you always want to do before you start any job, is to connect the garden hose, connect the water source. And that's just, if I get something on me, water's on. If it
Yep.
gets in my eye, water in the eye. So
I think that's a great. I think that's a great tip, and I think it seems so simple, but it's so important. We were cleaning a fence. This has been a couple summers ago. We were cleaning a fence, and we were using bleach and some spray. So we use sunglasses as our eye protection because it's just handy and all that. Well, my cousin Josh was helping us, and he was spraying, and I was coming behind and rinsing. Well, some spray he got. It's always the rails. The rails always end up spraying everywhere. And he had got some on his face and it leaked. It was summer, so we were sweating. So it got it on his face, leaked down into his eyes, and really started giving him some trouble. Well, luckily we had the hose hooked up and he went and flushed for a little bit. And then he and I switched places. That way he was just on water only from there out. But had we not had the hose hooked up, that could have really gotten to some uncomfortable situations for him.
yep, could have gone sideways real quick. And that's what I like to tell. So my steps when I show up to a job site, whether it's washing or staining, I notify the homeowner I'm there.
Yeah.
First thing off the truck is a garden hose. The last thing onto the truck is a garden hose. So garden hose is and the water's got to be on. So if you start mixing chemical and your water's not on, you get it on you. Well, what good? Why'd you put the garden hose out in
Yeah,
the
you've
first
got to
place?
run all the way to the spigot, turn it on, run all the way back.
Yeah. I remember when I used to spray the 12.5% bleach, I would get little spots all over my face because it'd blow back on me,
Yeah,
and they'd scab up, and it burned, and
yeah,
I've seen people who's gotten bleach burns or chemical burns. For example, wearing backpack sprayers. I strongly
yes,
suggest not wearing backpack sprayers because the seals do go out,
sure.
and if it's hot out in the summer, you think you're just sweating. But
Hmm.
nope, that's bleach going down your back, and it will burn like crazy.
It will lead to a very bad day.
Yep.
Very bad day. Let's jump into the comments real quick. I think I've seen a few here that are good to talk about. So Sudzio said, interested in crossing this information with cleaning shake shingles on my barn. A lot of what we're talking about can be applied to just wood products in general. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cedar shakes are. I mean, I would start off with percarbonate. It kind of depends on how bad a shape they're in. Start off with percarbonate. I did a cedar shake job last year. Um, we used metasilicate because it had been stained before, and
Okay.
we were just removing the old pigments off and starting it up again. So, but yeah, I would start with percarbonate, test it. If it works, continue that on. The issue with cedar shakes on the siding is, one, you have to get up there and it could be 20 feet up in the air, and you don't want to lean a ladder against cedar shakes.
Mm,
So you got to be able to get that product up there and rinse it off. So likely you have to get a lift or a boom lift or something to help you get up, or an A-frame ladder.
yeah. Something
So
to get up there without putting pressure on the shingles.
yep, that's the issue with fences and decks. Yeah, it's you can walk on a deck or
Absolutely. Mitchell Gregory says, hey guys, happy to be here. Excited to learn about this. I've been entertaining the idea of offering this type of service. We've got a great event coming up that would be great for this.
yes.
Divine says, getting into staining, most people are hesitant and nervous of damaging customers' property and neighbors. Highly recommend everyone interested to go to Expert Staining University and grow your business. That's where we are headed with this conversation. I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
Nick says it is Chinese New Year's today.
Ooh,
Happy New Year's.
Year.
Believe we're going. I heard this on a podcast. I believe we're going into the year of the rabbit. So, for all of you that were wondering, Pro Wash Missouri says, "Hello, gents. How are we today? We are
Hello.
well. We are well. Good to see you in the chat." Chris says, "Hello from Titans of Timber, Fence and Stain. Both of you guys have been instrumental in helping when I needed it. So thanks and keep up the good work." Very welcome, Chris. Very welcome. Josh Rand says, "Aloha from Heber," with the frozen face. And this is applicable because I don't know, Kenny, if you saw his video. Josh had a video. Where did I see? Oh, yeah, it might have been on TikTok. I saw this video. Kenny, do you know Sam Natello? He's
Not
in the
personally.
fencing side. He's a web developer on the fencing side. So he lives in Florida, and he had a video out of him in a like a pool hot tub situation. Josh straight up called him out. I mean, he had 3 or 4 feet of snow, went out, he had to chop ice off of his cold bath, and jumped in it and basically said, your hot tub sucks.
Yeah. I saw that video where he went and scooped up a pile of snow out of his, and I was like, this guy is missing some. He needs some help.
He's on a different level. He is on a different level. Josh, I was cold watching you.
Yeah.
He was on this one. He was chopping ice. It was like an inch of ice, and then he jumped in. I was like, I need to go get in a warm shower just watching this. Like I don't. Oh man, alive. I mean, I understand the health benefits. I've heard them talked about, but a cold shower is not comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Much less chipping ice off of. Whoa. Pro Wash Missouri says, standing terms and conditions. I need to revise mine. Where can I find some to look over and edit and make fit my needs? Kenny, good to see you on here. Learned a ton from you in Springfield. Kenny, is there a good resource for something like that as far as terms and conditions?
So I talked to somebody earlier this week about this. So terms and conditions in your contract, it's something that you need to take up with your attorney, your lawyer. I can give you mine, show you mine, whatever. But the fact it comes down to is if you ever run into an issue and your attorney looks at that and says, where in the world did this come from? I'm not handling this case.
Yeah.
So we can give you some ideas of what needs to be, and this is a whole 2-3 hour conversation of you need to have this in there. You need to have, but basically it's, if you've ever run into an issue or somebody else has run into an issue, you're putting that in your terms and conditions.
Well, and so that's a great point, Kenny. So that's kind of where we get to with ours is if we have an issue that arises, we reach out to the lawyer and say, hey, this happened, this result, this happened and this was the result. I don't want this, right? Like we need to release liability from us for this. It's outside of our control or whatever it is. And then let him formulate the verbiage because a lot of this varies by state too.
Yep.
So if you use, mine from Missouri down in Texas, it might not fly. The lawyer down there might look at it and go, yeah, I don't know where you got this, but I can't back this up. This isn't allowed by Texas state law or whatever it is.
Yep. I want to say there's a lot of if-then statements that you could put into to your terms and conditions. If this happens, then this is the process we're going to take.
Yeah.
And you just want to make sure you have a way, I don't want to say a way out, but a way to cover yourself if something, and a perfect example, I don't want to have to pay to repaint a house. So I don't want to have to worry about overspray. So I have these if-then conditions of if it's over this mile-an-hour wind, we probably aren't going to be staining.
Yeah.
Or we'll convert over to, instead of spraying, I'm rolling it or brushing it or whatever to try to minimize that. I mean, at the end of the day, you're responsible for pretty much anything. You have the choice of whether or not to do that job that day.
Yep.
And so it comes down to, we're not going to do it today because it's too windy or your dogs are out or whatever, cars parked next door or whatever. So
absolutely. So unfortunately, the advice is check with your lawyer. Right? Like have your lawyer tell your lawyer what you're trying to do and what you're trying to avoid, and let them kind of formulate a response or formulate a contract, terms of service.
Yeah, but along with that, we can provide you with some things. Look out for this, or this is something that I would probably put in my terms and conditions. Check with your lawyer.
Yeah,
put this in. Check with your lawyer. Make sure you double check with your lawyer.
That always has to be the final step. Is run it past them because they're the ones that are you're going to expect to defend this thing.
Exactly.
Should something happen.
Yep.
David wants to know, is warm water better when using all of these products? Would you prefer warm water over cold water regardless of the product?
So assuming we're talking about mixing the product. So
Yeah, so this came up when we were talking about percarbonate, metasilicate, that
okay,
sort of thing.
so yeah, chemicals will mix easier and quicker in warm water or hot water. So when I'm mixing, I have a little bucket heater. So when I'm mixing oxalic acid or percarbonate, I'm mixing it with hot, and it's almost to the point of boiling. Now, as you get stronger into your chemicals, hydroxides, you do not want to use hot water because
Okay.
it heats up by itself. So,
Sure.
and I don't know if you remember, this was back, I want to say in the 90s. Yeah, it was back in the 90s. Campbell's had a soup can that you'd pop the bottom on and it'd heat the soup.
Nice.
And then they stopped making it because people were getting chemical burns because that it was basically you're breaking water into a hydroxide packet and it was
Huh.
heating it up. And it would heat that can up and you'd have a hot can of soup. So
Interesting.
hydroxides heat up. If you start with hot water, we know the boiling temperature is what, 212 or something like that.
Yep.
If you start off with boiling water, which is, let's say you start off with 110 degrees and you start adding your chemical, now we're getting closer and closer to that boiling point, and
Yep.
it just creates an environment that's not good, and that's not safe. And there's an example, or I think I posted this one time. I was doing a job and I set a bucket down on grass and I was mixing hydroxide, and I picked the bucket up and the bucket had heated enough and killed a round circle of grass.
Yep.
So it's you with hydroxide start off with cold, metasilicate warm, percarbonate hot. So
Okay.
the gentler the product, I would say the warmer the water needs to be.
It's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind.
Yep.
Very good. Steve has a recommendation. Chopin makes good sprayers with Viton seals.
Yep.
Agreed. Divine Defense says Kenny knows all the chemicals and how to use them. I agree. I agree.
I wouldn't say knows how to use them. I'm just comfortable
He's just
in making
familiar
the
with them.
yeah.
No,
It's
no. Kenny is an incredible resource. Nathan's got a good question for you. Do you need a respirator or just a cloth mask? What level of breathing apparatus is appropriate?
I would suggest a respirator, um, but I mean even just a mask would be better than just
Yeah,
that.
it's one of those things where so we like using, and you can find them in any of the big box stores. It's a respirator with dual filters on them.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like there's also a level of you put your guys at ease too with them feeling like they've got that mask on. Now, I absolutely understand that in August it's not the most comfortable thing to have on either. So
Nope.
there's probably going to be some resistance there, but it's just a good bet. Now, if you're
Yep.
using something like a percarbonate, a cloth mask is probably acceptable. Would you say, Kenny, or no?
Well, and I mean it's kind of like I mean in a dust storm, it's I don't need to wear it because it's just dust. Well, you inhale enough of it,
Yeah,
it's not good for you. So I mean, it's one of those things where I don't want to say it's
sure.
good
That
enough,
makes
but
sense. That makes sense.
yeah, it's I wouldn't yell at you for just wearing one. So,
Yeah.
but you're right. There are different levels. You have the kind that's a full face shield, and I wish I would have pulled that out. It's sitting over in one of the boxes there. But I bring
Mhm.
that to Staining University. It's kind of like I mean, it covers your whole face,
Yeah.
and it has the
It's got the filters on the side of it as well.
yep, yep.
Absolutely. You can pick those up at the big box stores as well. Chris wants to know for potassium hydroxide, what is your mixing ratio if you're purchasing the flakes separately?
So I start off at my base or my tipping point is 8 ounces, and that's for any product. So 8 ounces per gallon of water. If I want to go stronger, I'll mix it a little bit stronger. If I don't want to waste material or chemical, I go a little bit weaker. So I always start
Okay.
off at 8, test it, and then go from there. So
Got it.
and that's with anything. That's with percarbonate, with metasilicate, pretty much anything.
So I think that's a solid tip, Kenny, is go with the weakest you feel comfortable with and then work your way up rather than you don't want it to be incredibly hot and then
Yep.
end up damaging something
Yep.
and then try to dilute it for the rest of the project.
Well, and even at that, you're wasting a lot of chemical if you start off.
Yeah,
So an example with oxalic acid, we don't necessarily need 8 ounces per gallon, but that's kind of the our starting point. And if I could see, okay, that did a real good job. Let's knock it down to 6 or 4 or whatever. So,
got it. Got it. Tony Rivera says, "Sup, guys."
hey, Tony.
Hello, Tony. Seeing as Vinyl's with us. Hello, gentlemen. Howdy from Florida. Hello.
Hello.
Jackson Fence Company. What's up, Cannon? Says late to the party, but what's up? Actually, that's what that means. S is what's up. Is that right? Did I say that? I don't know if I said that right. Pronunciation's everything. Pro Watch says that helps. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Truth Seeker. Hello. Any tips on keeping stain off of a metal roof? 2-story log home with a metal porch roof below.
Yeah. Keeping it off. So
Yeah.
it depends on how you need to access that. So how are you if you're using a boom lift, the easiest way is just to run water.
Yeah.
Just run water, put a garden hose up there and let the water run down.
You can put a degree, you can coat it with a degreaser first or something like that.
You have to be careful with the degreasers on metal
Okay.
roofs because it
Okay.
will etch. Some of that will etch, and that
Good to know.
even when we're going into washing this. So if you're going to use oxalic acid um, after you did your cleaning,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be careful with that oxalic acid on that metal roof because it
Okay.
will etch the metal. So try not to do it when it's hot out. So
Sure.
we know a metal roof is going to be 4 times hotter than what it is actually outside. So
It could
um,
flash dry.
yep. So eh, if hopefully you're not walking on that because once you put oil or oil stain onto a metal roof, it's you'll be down on the ground real quick.
So here's a dangerous question. Who is going to see the stain on the top of the roof? Here's the thing. Someone will. Like
Somebody will.
never tell yourself, well, no one will see it. They will see it.
Yep.
I don't care if it's at the top of a 100-story building. You're like, no one would ever see that. Someone will see it.
Yep.
You just work on the presumption that whatever it is that you're going to touch is going to be inspected.
Yep.
And then go from there.
Well, it's kind of like doing fence rails. When you're staining fence rails, you always want to step back, look down, and
Yeah.
it's if there's a pool, you definitely want to do it when there's a pool because pool puts you even lower down.
Yeah, basically at ground level. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're looking up at everything and you can see everything. Or if they have a balcony, they can look down on top of the fence. So
Yeah.
if it's wood, get stain on it.
And in Truth Seeker's example, said it's a 2-story log home with a metal porch roof below. So anyone on that second story looking out is going to see this porch
Yep.
roof. So, oh, well. And then he says that it's a front porch roof, very noticeable. You operate on the assumption that whatever it is going to be inspected.
Yep.
And then that will never fail you. Now, it will fail you if you assume that no one will ever see it because that ensures someone will see it.
Yep.
All right. So, Kenny, let's talk about Staining University. So, all this is kind of leading up to this discussion. We're before we went live, we were talking about it's only like 3 weeks away. It's coming up quickly.
Yeah, real quick.
So you're going to be presenting on the fence cleaning chemicals, methods, that sort of thing?
So Joe, when I show up to these events, I don't have an agenda.
Sure.
I just show up and you guys throw me into it and say, "Hey, go talk about this." And that's really I'm there to help people or talk about my experiences, my mistakes that I've made.
Sure.
And then that's kind of what I go to these events for is to I'm not a keynote speaker. I don't think I'm very good up in front of crowds, but if you gather around me, I'll
There's a
ch-
lot of information to pick up from you. That is for sure. But you're going to be at Staining University
I will. Yes.
coming up.
Yep.
So
And
we
that,
actually have the link for Staining University in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put it in the comment section on the Facebook and LinkedIn. That way you guys can get signed up. It's a free event. It's totally free once you get there. Now, Kenny, sometimes what we hear is people say, well, yeah, but then I've got to get a hotel room. I've got to go, feed myself and all that. So it's a free event to attend, but there are some costs associated with it.
There are.
You're looking at taking that assumption on, aren't you? We're doing a
I
giveaway.
am. So every time we do one of these events, we say, "Hey, we're gonna sponsor. We're gonna do a scholarship for somebody," and it never pans out. And normally these are ones where we have hotels, and okay, we're gonna have to buy a separate hotel and stuff like that. Well, Standing University this year, I went ahead and got an Airbnb, and I got
Excellent.
2 extra rooms for this Airbnb. And I was thinking, you know what? Some of these guys that are going, that are teaching, we can all get together, and after the day, we'll sit down and have a drink of bourbon or whatever, smoke some cigars. But then I got to thinking, why don't I just offer these up to two special or two lucky guests and say, hey, all you got to do is get there.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Whether you walk, if you're on the highway between Dallas and Nashville, I will pick you up on the way there.
Very
But
good.
I will provide lodging and food from Wednesday to Saturday morning. After breakfast, kicking you out, and then
I
you're
like
on
it.
your own. But yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing. I'm giving away 2 rooms and
Okay. Very good.
meals for the training. So
Yeah, for the training for Standing University.
yep.
So we talked about how can people sign up, or how can people enter to win. I want to try to keep it pretty straightforward, but also to provide some value. So I think what we talked about, I think what we agreed on is if you want to sign up for Kenny's giveaway, for the lodging giveaway, check out the Standing University Facebook group. And if you search Standing University in the Facebook search bar, you will find this group. Jump into the group, comment, and create a post that said, Kenny sent me. That's all you got to do. Create a
That'll
post.
work.
Kenny
That'll work.
sent me. That way, everyone will be able to see it. Kenny and I will be able to see it. Kenny's going to choose a winner. Kenny, when are you going to choose a winner?
Well, so I'm also I offered this for the for Dan and Cannon show.
Yeah, the My
So
Fence Life. Yeah.
yep. So they will get a winner as well.
Yeah.
So with their next show is on Wednesday. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have it by Tuesday if possible. And
Okay.
that way if somebody has already reserved a room and they can cancel
Yeah. Yeah.
if they win type thing. So I want to give
Sure.
them enough time, or it gives them 15, 16 days to get their schedule straightened out
Yeah.
so they can
Make
make it there.
arrangements.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'd like to make the announcement on Dan and Cannon show on My
Very
Fifth
good.
Life, if
So, guys,
possible.
if you want to sign up, you need to be signed up by Tuesday. He's going to choose a winner on Tuesday.
Yep.
Go to the Facebook group, Standing University, create a post, and all it has to say is Kenny sent me, and we'll know. We'll know. And everyone else that didn't watch this will be really wondering what's Kenny sending people to.
Yeah.
That'll be fun too. That'll be fun too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. CNS Vinyl says something for future topic, possibly something maybe no one wants to discuss. Drugs and alcohol in our industry, spoken and unspoken rules. We'll tiptoe around that one. It's a big subject. It's a big
Yeah.
subject. Sudzio wants to know how many people are going to be there. Who knows? I mean, this thing grow. I say that because this thing is growing year on year.
Yeah.
Last year there's probably a couple hundred people there. I didn't count each one of them, but I don't even remember what that room's capacity is. But we were at capacity. So this year
standing
actually
room.
changed locations because we were at capacity of that room we were in.
Yeah. Yeah. It was standing room only.
Yeah.
Last year. So
yeah. A lot is the
Yeah.
answer. A lot. Jackson Fitz says, got it. Thanks, Kenny. Will do. Okay. Jackson Fitz is in on it. You gotta be entered by Tuesday. Now, if you want to double your chances, you can also go on the My Fence Life podcast, leave them a 5-star with a review. You could be entered to win over there. So you could be entered to win twice. That is acceptable. Now, you probably won't be chosen twice. Like, let's just be clear on that. Like, two separate winners. Okay.
I mean, that might save me money on meals, right?
No, Kenny, we're not doing it. It's got to be separate people.
Okay. I got a surprise for Cannon too. So
okay.
Cannon, on my way up to Nashville, I'm actually going to be swinging by Cannon's office.
Nice. I like
So
it.
'cause
I like it.
it's there north of Jackson. So
Mm-hmm.
Medina, Tennessee.
Medina.
I got a surprise for him.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, Kenny, we're about done. Usually, last thing we do is we'll watch this week's video. Do you got a few minutes?
I do.
All right.
As
Let's
long as it's
see.
done before the Chiefs game starts.
Hey, 3:30 kickoff, so we've got some time.
All
We've
right.
got some time. All right. Let's see if I take that down and I add this. Okay. We're cooking. We're cooking. Here we go. Let's see if it has audio. That'll be the big one. I'm pretty sure I checked the box. We got to press play. So this trailer, Kitty, we bought this trailer to deliver wire with for Ozark Wireworks. Do you know how much wire we've delivered with it? No.
I mean, really.
Now, how many panels have we delivered with this thing? Probably, well, we've done probably around 3,000 foot of panels with it so far, thereabouts. So apparently this is not a wire delivering trailer. This is a panel delivering trailer. May 22nd of 2011, a massive tornado rips through Joplin, Missouri. 2 days later, we got a call from a national restoration company to come secure the entire perimeter. You see, there was a lot of looting going on. In fact, the local police chief had put a shoot-on-sight curfew in effect because looting was so bad, and they had to use it a couple times. Anyway. Yeah, they actually – so what was happening is, well, one, people were looting – like people's stuff, like apartments and stuff like that. But so they shot two guys, though, that were trying to cut power wires for the copper.
Yeah.
And like, maybe you let natural selection run its course here. Hey, just, is it live or not? I don't know. Why don't you go cut that thing and find out? Yeah. But yeah, they put a curfew in effect, and then people were still running around. So they said, we will shoot you. If we find you after dark, we will shoot you.
Man, that's a Wild West.
So when when the sun was like near the horizon, we're like, all right, pack it up. Let's go. We are not chancing this. 2 days later, we were on site to secure this facility. Now, the fence was there for quite a while, as you can imagine. The deconstruction and cleanup took a little bit. Then we picked up the panels and brought them back home and didn't really think about that site again. Until now.
All right, guys, we're here in Joplin. We've got something like 1,600 foot worth of panels to set up on this construction site. We have, I think, 1,100 is what fits comfortably on this trailer. So there'll be a return trip tomorrow. There actually hasn't been a building here since the tornadoes came through. So they're finally to the point where they can begin reconstruction. So we're going to secure the site again for a completely unrelated client.
So what happened is, we put the fence up. They did all the search and rescue. They did all that stuff. And then they tore the apartments down. And then it was a field. So for the last 11 years, it was 11 years. Yeah. 12 years. I don't know, whatever. It was a field. And then we came. So then it changed hands. It sold. They didn't even know we were the last ones on the site. They just hired us to come put some temp fence up. They're building townhomes now, I believe. I was like, hey, what a small world. Now, this project was a little bit different than one you guys watched a couple weeks ago in Branson. We weren't able to drive around the perimeter of this one. It took us a little bit longer, but we worked out an assembly line type of process, and 5 of us got the fence put up in roughly about 4 hours.
Flags are on the inside of the pink flag where we can. Up all the way to the next corner that lines up with this gas station fence here. We'll come over to it. That's going to be pretty close to the footage we have on the truck. If we have anything extra, we'll probably block off the entrances for them. And then, so tomorrow you'll start there at the wood fence at the front corner, head up, down along the road, so wherever we end up in the panels today.
Nice and muddy. There's a big mud hole. backing down this mud alley area to get back to the first part of the panels. Trailer's a little heavy, and we got stuck in a little mud. So I had to pull forward and build up some momentum to power through the trailer was heavier than I thought it was.
So how's it going so far, guys?
It is going spectacular.
I like the positive attitude. We got a little bit of... Yeah.
Look good, feel good. Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom with Chase.
Look good, feel good, he says.
Now we have to wrap from over in that corner, all the way around this front, over here to where the wrap starts. And then we pick it up on the other side.
The next step, get some sandbags down to firmly secure this fence in place.
It's going pretty well. Yeah, we've got probably, I don't know, we'll have 1,100 foot put down today, and then we'll measure, figure out how much we need for tomorrow. Originally the plans called for 1,600 feet, but there's a good amount of fence that's already up. So, yeah, we'll do a count and see how much we actually need once we get these panels up.
Okay, so now we're going to tie it all up, and we'll update when we're done. We've done this whole backside here. Now we just have this final stretch. Bryce is over there, somewhere behind that, and then we'll be done. That is a wrap on this job. Well, almost.
With all the panels put up and secured, time to head back to Springfield and make a few gates.
And what are you doing today, man?
So we've got five little gates to do for a variety of people. Then we got a cantilever to do. We got to do them all today. So we're going to hit it hard and get them done. Frame it up, right? Just like normal. But the tacks are, the tacks got to be different. So the tacks have to be on the side that it's going to smush, right? So like this particular one is a 10-inch drop for the double. So you split that in between two gates. So if I would have put the tacks on this side, it would have been much harder for this thing to move, right? Because that's what this piece wants to do when you move it up. So if you tack it here, it's going to be like, so you basically just tack it on the right side on everything. If you're standing right under this right side, go over there, right side, right side, right side. So that's really it. And then if you got the bottom of the thing, then I just go up to where it goes to 5.
5, you said?
Yeah.
You always just do 5 inches?
No, so it depends on what the drop is, or the hill.
And that's just based on the hill?
Yeah, based on the hill. So this one has 10 inches of rise from the low side of the post to the high side of the post. So split that in between two gates. You got 5 and 5. Then it will rise in between the two 10 full or whatever.
Wait, high side right?
Yeah.
No place for bent strands in the workplace. When you line this side up, you got to cut a ton of these strands off at different lengths to get it to even up so that your line is
straight all the way. Okay.
A lot of times, well, they call it a bias cut, right? So if you cut two places, roughly here and here somewhere, you should be good. Or here, and then we look, and that's fairly tight. So then we could easily jump up to try this one here. So we'll cut here. We'll whip that out. And then we'll look again. We could easily jump up into that one. So
you just eyeball it based on where it's tight, essentially, when not over.
Right. Pull that piece out. Then you ought to be pretty close.
Here it continues the saga of making a.
And
Is it the drop gate? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Voila.
Nice and snug. Matt, come rate this gate that Eric did.
Looking good. That's how you do it right there.
Nothing too hard for the gate, boys.
So Eric is putting the wire ties on there.
Eric's trying so hard to make
it
these
nice
things
and
stick.
snug.
Maker where the chain link won't move. Well, you got done with this.
Yeah, well, yeah, the shop loves them.
Dome. Oh, she's a tight one. We're done. But now, when we put it up on a hill, it will flow perfectly. I don't know which side of hinge front, but open, close. Perfect slant, perfectly straight. Nothing's too hard for the Finch boys.
So we have a cantilever gate to make here in the shop today. We are out of 2.5 heavy, really long pieces that we would normally use, one full piece. We do have some 24-foot long pieces, and we have some 8-foot posts. This particular gate's going to be 32 feet, so we're going to go ahead and butt the 8-foot post up to the 24-footer to get our 32 feet. Something I like to do when I weld them together is I create just like a little insert to go in between the two, and I'll leave a gap in between the two posts, and that way I can weld the two posts together. It'll also hit this and melt this, which basically just sturdies it all up, kind of gives it some more support just in case it would ever be weak at that point. But anyway, I thought we would show you guys how that's done. So we got a 2.5-inch heavy pipe here. We have a 2-inch just scrap piece of pipe that's also heavy. If I was to just use this, it'd be a little sloppy. It really wouldn't give it a ton of extra support. There'd really be no point in doing that. Unfortunately, we don't have a pipe that fits in there super snug, so we kind of have to make one. And how we do that is we just take another scrap piece of this 2-inch and we run a Sawzall down it and split it in half. And then we go ahead and put those two pieces around another one, and that actually should be just enough to get in here and put it in real nice and tight. And you can see once I pound it in there, there won't be a whole lot of play. So that's what we're going to do. About 1/8 of an inch.
Okay. That's probably good. Yeah, so that's just a little gap in there so we can still weld it, and then it'll still bite down on the pipe underneath.
Trim it now because we left an 1/8 gap. 32 and an 1/8. We can't have that, guy.
That makes sense.
1/8 matter.
1/8 matter. So does it need to be all the way down?
Yeah. Let's see where we're at. We're at 32 and a half.
Okay, that's good. Got to cut off a 1/2 inch.
One rail done, another to go. Matt simply duplicates the process on the second rail that he used on the first rail. It's time to get this thing assembled.
We just finished up showing you guys how we make a cantilever gate when we don't have long pieces. We had a 24-foot long piece and an 8-foot long piece. We butted them up, showed you how to do like an interior sleeve. It went really well. We're now ready to weld this gate up. If you guys want to check out the full process of how we made a cantilever gate before and get some good tips and tricks, click right there. Until next time, I'll be here waiting for you to tune in.
Nothing's too hard for the Finch boys.
Very good. And secret code is TOOL. All right, guys. Kenny, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
Can't wait seeing you in a few weeks. These events are always my favorite because we get to see each other and hang out and talk about new ideas. That's my favorite. Is you usually around a dinner table we're talking about new ideas we're working up
Something
yeah.
something always gets invented at one of these things. So
That's right. That's right. So I'm looking forward to it. Guys,
Me as
if you'd
well.
like to also look forward to, if you'd like to also be a part of this, we will have the link in the description of the YouTube channel. We'll put it in, we have already put it in the comments for the Facebook page. So check that out. We'd love to see you guys there. Until next time, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors.